Brenda Taylor and I'm a clinical psychologist, and I love talking about adult ADHD. So if you're an adult with ADHD or in a relationship with someone who is, you've probably experienced some misunderstandings. So today we're going to talk about why these moments happen, how ADHD plays a role, and how people pleasing might be silently impacting your relationships. So let's look at this through the lens of psychology, empathy, and a little brain science. So let's talk about people pleasing a little bit more. Many adults with ADHD fall into the habit, not because they're weak, but because they've lived with criticism, rejection, and they always feel like perhaps they're disappointing others. And so that's a very powerful feeling that can bring along shame and a lot of guilt. And it can keep the person, quite fearful of saying no to things or setting boundaries. But obviously that creates difficulty over time. You can't always be, pleasing another person, because it means it comes at the expense of that person's sense of self as well. And, in reality, it's much better to have an honest, open relationship where you can have space and respect for how both people feel. And that's going to create longevity in a relationship, honesty, trust, and respect. So adding, ADHD's rejection sensitivity dysphoria into the mix, this pattern can become, a bit more extreme than it might be in a neurotypical person or neurotypical couple. So if you notice yourself constantly saying yes to avoid conflict and end up exhausted, resentful, or feeling invisible, that's a flag to you to understand this concept a little bit more, and just to dig a bit deeper to notice your people-pleasing patterns. So people-pleasing might feel safe, but over time, you're stuck with rules that don't reflect your true self. For example, you might always, you might be the one who does all the housework, for example, to please the other person. But, over time, that is going to make you feel upset. Or you might be the one who always agrees to meet a friend on their side of town and they never come over to you. And so over time that might make you feel resentful. But if you're too afraid to say, how you really feel, or hey, let's meet in the middle, things become unbalanced and, you can start to feel resentful. So it's really important to recognize and address those things. And we can talk more about how you might do that. Okay, so here's how you shift that pattern and start to build healthier communication. So notice your triggers. So ask yourself, did I say yes because I wanted to, or I was just afraid to say no? Use boundary scripts like, let me get back to you, I'll check my schedule, I just need to think about that for a moment and I'll come back to you. Or you might even say something along the lines of, I would love to do that, but I actually can't fit that into my schedule right now. So letting the other person know, that you don't have time or you don't want to. You don't have to directly say no. That's okay too. So just with understanding boundaries, it's about you knowing what's okay for you, and then finding a way to communicate that. But the way you communicate it can be in so many different ways. It doesn't have to be a firm, no, I can't do that for you. There's actually a lot of different ways, softer ways. Thinking about what a healthy adult does. They communicate well, they set boundaries, that they're kind, compassionate, generous, all those things. And they speak up without guilt. So in a way, it's trying to get that part of yourself to speak a bit louder, because I think in many ways most people do know what that feels like, or what they would like to do or what they should do, and I guess that part of us is there, so it's trying to get that part to speak up and for them to be recognized as well. So most important to change the pattern is to give yourself some permission to sometimes disappoint people. It is a fact of life that, we don't always get what we want all the time. But that also applies to other people too, and that's okay. It's not always our job to make everyone else in the world happy. And so understanding that can be quite freeing, but I guess it does come along with, sometimes feelings of guilt. But, it isn't your job to make everybody else in the world happy. You also have to make yourself happy. And it's really making sure that you give yourself permission to do that and to really feel like that's okay. So obviously that's within balance as well. It's not always disappointing people or always letting them down. But the thing is, for most people who have a pattern of people pleasing, that's really not an issue. It's really probably quite skewed to, I can never let people down. And, that's really not a healthy, balanced belief. So it's about getting that back in balance, and that being, okay, and very, very important for you to start to, recognize yourself and what you need. And yeah, give that a go. So I hope this helped. And if you found this helpful, perhaps look at my website, focusforwardcourses.com.au. It has some free resources on there. It also has some courses as well. And if you like this video, please subscribe, like, share, send it to someone who you think it might help as well. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.